You are running through a forest. It is late at night, and the sky is as black as pitch. There is nothing to light your way save for the moon's milky glow, but its rays cannot reach you, not properly. The trees which surround you, jutting out of the earth like eerie monuments to a foreign god, are blotting out most of the light. You cannot see where you are going. Even if you had commenced your flight at a more sensible hour, however, with the light of the sun to aid you, it would be of little use. You do not know where you are going. You have no map, no route, no plan. You are running like a frightened animal, anxious and nervy, with no destination in mind. You have no desire, as you run, save to escape. You cannot let yourself be caught. If that were to happen, you are certain that you would be ruined. You have no choice, therefore, but to keep going, on and on and on, though your feet are screaming at you for mercy. You have no idea how long you have been running. Time has begun to blend together. It has lost all meaning. Something sharp snags at the hem of your skirt, but you do not have the luxury to pause and examine what has happened. Instead, you tug. Your skirt tears, the sound splitting through the forest, and you stumble forwards with a shocked gasp. You are free, but at what cost? Your skirt has been irrevocably damaged. It might be too late to worry about such trivial matters now, though. If you do not start running again, and soon, she will catch you. Then, your life will be over. You do not know if she is still following you, but you do not want to risk looking over your shoulder. If you were to see her, silhouetted beneath a tree, looking at you with that sickly sweet smile which once ensnared you, you would lose what little nerve you possess. Your legs would lock up, and your blood would freeze in your veins. Then, you would crumble. You would fall, but you would not hit the ground. She would be there to catch you. Did she not promise, when you made that contract, that you would never be alone? You would like to take back that silly wish of yours, but it is too late for that. It's too late for a lot of things. All you can do is run. You run and run and run, while icy fog swirls about your feet. It is cold enough to sap the heat from your body, and you shudder from it. It feels as though you are drowning. It feels as though you are being buried alive. Your knees and your shins, meanwhile, are bleeding. You cannot endure much more of this. But if you value your own life, you must. You run and run and run until, at long last, you reach a fork in the road. There are 3 paths which split off through the forest. Well, 4 if you count the path which you came. You cannot exactly double back on yourself, though. Not when you have put so much effort into running forwards. You can only press on. The 3 paths are signposted, which is something of a strange sight given you are so deep in the forest. Dark though it might be, you have grown accustomed to the shadows. You can just about pick out the writing on this old, dilapidated signpost, curved and slanted though it is. Your fate, if you will forgive me for sounding so cliché, is in your own hands. Now, I wonder, which path will you take? Can I save first? I can. Ooh. Alright. So, let's just start from the top and work our way down. Let's go to the shore. So, you want to go to the shore? Good idea. What will you discover there, I wonder? This night is far from over, and there are any number of adventures still awaiting you. I hope that you have prepared yourself in advance, and I do hope, for your sake, that you have learnt how to swim. I have a sneaking suspicion that this skill might come in handy. Luckily for you, I do know how to swim. You follow the path which leads to the shore. supporting yourself on weary, aching limbs which feel ready to snap at the knee beneath the burden of your weight. You were little more than a wisp of a girl, but you have been running for so very long, and your feet are so very numb. You feel like a great, lumbering thing. You need to lie down, and quickly. You only hope, as you continue to run, that you will find a means to escape your current predicament by the shore. You do not know what awaits you, but you have visions of a harbor extending out to the horizon, cradling a fleet of white-sailed fishing vessels. Surely there will be a kindly fisherman who will be willing to take you far, far away on his boat, to a place where your pursuer will not be able to find you. You can imagine, too, the face of this kindly fisherman, a face you have lifted from the fairy tales you read in abundance as a small child. He will have thick, bushy eyebrows and a dark brown beard streaked through with gray. He will look intimidating at a glance, but he will be fiercely protective of you, just like a father. You do not know what fathers are supposed to be like. You are only imagining. It is your imagination, however, which grants you the strength needed to keep going. You run to the shore. It takes some time before you finally emerge from the woods. Finally, you do it. How much time, you ask? I cannot answer that. Did I not say that time had begun to lose all its meaning? The forest is behind you now, at least, and all the awful nightmares that lurk within it. It is still cold, though, and still foggy. It is still dark, too. The sun is yet to rise. You can see the moon more clearly now as it hangs above your head, round as any pearl, or orb, or crystal ball. The orb! The moonlight shines down upon the vertiginous cliffs, which plummet sharply downwards to an array of sharp, spiky rocks below. You felt, upon escaping the woods, a degree of hope, but the sight of these weather-blasted cliffs gives you pause. You inhale. Then you frown. Now what are you to do? You did not think this plan of yours through very well. Not that you had much in the way of a plan in the first place. There is very little in the way of civilization here. The cliffs are far from the village. How far? You don't know. And you cannot see any houses. Where, exactly, will you rest your weary head? And what of your weary legs? We're just gonna drown. Fitfully, you look around. There is nobody to your east, nor is there anybody to your west. There is no point in looking south. That is the way you came, and when you look to the north, the world falls away from you. The cliffs are too steep to scale, and it is too dark. Naturally, there is not a soul here to help you. You are on your own. You feel so overwhelmed, you could very well cry. You do not cry, however. You know that tears have never helped anyone. You got yourself into this mess. Now, you need to get yourself out of it. It is with this thought in mind that you inhale a lungful of salty, oceanic air. Then, you begin your exploration in earnest. You keep away from the edge of the cliffs, afraid that you might slip and take a sudden, unfortunate tumble into the abyss below. You are not as attached to your mortal body as some humans are, but you do not want to die. You still care for yourself, if only a little. And it is this sense of self-preservation which compels you onwards. You glance this way and that, depressing the tall grass beneath your shoes as you search for a place of shelter. Surely there must be somewhere. You cannot see any likely-looking settlements, but... What is that? Over yonder? Could that be a roof? You hurry onwards, hope budding anew in your heart, until, at long last, you reach your destination. There is a house, after all, out here in the wilds, though it doesn't, at a glance, look very welcoming. The solitary house that you have discovered, not so far from the cliffs, is rather unremarkable. It is so small and squat, you cannot imagine it contains within it more than one floor. You cannot even imagine that it contains much more than one room. Though it is dark, it is not dark enough to mask that the cottage has something of a slant to it. it is leaning listlessly to one side, like a drunken sailor. The thatched roof, meanwhile, which tops this dwelling, has certainly seen better days. There's a hole in the thatch. There are several holes, in fact, and parts of it look particularly bare, almost bald. Bald? That is rather concerning. Should it rain, you will not be properly protected from the elements. Can you really stay the night in such a place? You have some misgivings. But do your misgivings matter, really, when there is nowhere else to go? It is not as though you have any other options. It is with a sense of defeat, therefore, that you approach the cottage, which sticks out of the earth like a tombstone. Part of you wants to turn back, but you know that would be foolish. The windows of the cottage are dark, but that does not necessarily mean it is empty. It is rather late at night, after all. Whoever lives here, if indeed anybody does live here, might be asleep. You cannot imagine the owners of this cottage will appreciate being roused so very late at night. You cannot let yourself worry too much about these small details, however. Otherwise, you will never get anywhere. You swallow. The taste of the salty sea breeze is pungent in the back of your nostrils. Then, you rap the knuckles of your right fist on the door. You rap quietly at first, but you do not hear any resultant shuffling inside the cottage. Perhaps you did not use enough strength. Emboldened, you rap your knuckles on the door for a second time, more loudly this time. You wait a few moments, but still, you cannot hear anything. Perhaps the cottage is unoccupied after all. You knock for a third time, then wait. The third time is, as they say, the charm. But for all that, your knocking goes unanswered. Well, nobody can say that you did not try. More intrigued now than anxious, your fingers find the handle of the door. You pull it down, and to your surprise, it yields easily. The door swings back for you, as if by magic. It feels almost as if this was preordained. You step foot inside the cottage, which is very dark, and glance around. It is hard to see, given the lateness of the hour, but the cottage's interior is about as inspiring as its exterior. Which is to say, not very. It is every bit as small and as cramped as you fancied when you observed it from the outside. There are a few cupboards which line the walls, a wood fire which has since been extinguished, and a straw pallet on the floor, which must function as a bed. Pallet? Pallet? I don't know. Your search is unsuccessful, however, when it comes to trying to locate other humans. You cannot find another soul. Surely that is to your benefit, though. If nobody else lives here, then you might as well make yourself at home. Or as at home as one can be, I suppose, in a small, cramped cottage such as this, with holes in the roof. You close the door behind you, then approach the straw pallet. We're going with pallet for this one, because I don't know. All of a sudden, you feel incredibly weary. The tiredness that assails your limbs is absolute. So intense it overcomes the last of your concerns. You settle down upon the straw pallet, yawning as you do. It is not comfortable, but being able to lie down eases some of your aches and pains. Lying down, even on an uncomfortable makeshift bed such as this one, is better than standing. It is far, far better than running. Your eyelids fall shut, your lashes melting together. And, soothed by the sounds of the wind and the distant roiling of the waves, you fall asleep. Then, you begin to dream. It is not uncommon, of course, to dream. The best and the worst of us do it, from queens in their castles to peasants sleeping in the straw. Why, who is it to say that all you have observed tonight has not, in a sense, been a dream of its own? Would that make your nighttime fancies, then, a dream inside a dream? Perhaps our dreams are empty, hollow things stacked inside one another, like little wooden dolls. Is that not a whimsical thought? How very droll. Your dreams, however, cannot be called whimsical, and neither are they particularly droll. They are not pure fabrications, as dreams sometimes are, fleeting fancies which can never come to pass. Your dreams are of a rather more pernicious sort. In your dreams, you are at the... There's a lot of big words here. In your dreams, you are at the conservatoire, with your red hair tied back into two prim, proper braids. You are walking through the courtyard, clutching your books to your chest as you make your way to the library. Your head is bowed, so as not to look at the faces of your passing classmates. You do not want to meet their eyes. These girls, with their sensible braids and their sensible shoes, are merciless. You hunch your shoulders together in this dream of yours, so as not to draw their attention. But alas, it is not enough. You stumble, clumsy thing that you are, and you fall. And just like that, all eyes are upon you. They are staring at you. They are laughing at you. You lay there on the ground, by the fountain, your books scattered and your skirt in a woeful state of disarray. Your knee hurts. Is it bleeding? You examine your injured leg, trying not to cry. And as this transpires, you hear a voice. One of your classmates is calling out to you. She has acknowledged you. You look up shyly, tears beating in your eyes, at a girl taller than you, and prettier, and much more refined. She extends her hand towards you. Does she mean to help you? Cannot hurt to try, can it? Hesitantly, you reach out to accept her offered aid. Her fingers curl around yours tightly, perhaps too tightly. Her nails dig into your skin. It hurts. Deftly, the girl pulls you to your feet. Your legs feel weak from your fall, and your knee is still aching, still bleeding. You stumble, feeling out of sorts, but you're not afforded much of an opportunity to gather your bearings. The girl's hands are on your shoulders. She is laughing at you. Then, she is pushing you. The sound of the fountain and the running water which drums against its basin is, all of a sudden, very loud. It is overwhelming. It surrounds you. Then it engulfs you. It is as cold as ice. You cannot breathe. The rushing of the water continues, echoing in your eardrums over and over. And then... No. You do not want to remember this. What good will it do? It is in the past, where the past ought to remain. You are never going to go back, not even in your dreams. It is this determination which forces you back into the world of the waking with a start. You gasp like a fish as you sit upright, your eyes unnaturally wide. You feel wearied from a lack of sleep, and with half-lidded eyes, you glance about. It is still dark inside your cottage, the sky visible from beyond the windows splashed, still, with stars. How long are you asleep? You are not sure. Your dream was so very detailed. It really did feel that you had been transported into a different time, into a different place. When you inhale, you can taste rank, fetid water in your mouth. Attentively, you pat yourself down, your fingers trailing against the front of your uniform. So vivid was your dream, you half expect to find that your clothes are damp. This is not the case, however. You are, in fact, perfectly dry. Well, now what are you going to do? Will you go back to sleep? That sounds like the best option available to you. You are very tired, but your senses feel too overwrought. All of a sudden, for sleep, you do not think you could bear it. On unsteady legs, you rise to your feet, then stand by the window. You look out to the starry sky and to the pitted moon which hangs amongst them, and you frown. You can hear the wind outdoors, howling like an injured animal, and, more softly, the ebb and flow of the waves as they meet the cliffs. But that is not all. What is that sound? Why, it is almost like singing. The voice is far enough away that you cannot pick out any individual words, nor even the individual syllables. But there is a haunting quality to it all. The singer, whoever they are, possesses quite the pretty voice, high and clear, like a bell. The song is a melancholy one, which stirs your heart. Curiosity takes root inside you, as it did during that fateful day you found that book in the library. Logically, you know you should not go outdoors to seek the source of that singing. But emotionally? That is another matter altogether. You really should have learnt your lesson by now. You should know better than to go sticking your nose into business which does not concern you. But naughty little girls such as you never do learn. You cross the old fisherman's cottage as though in a dream, then reach for the handle of the door. The handle depresses easily enough beneath your grasping fingers, and the door opens with a click. The rest of the world yawns before you, framed in the doorway, all of it bathed in moonlight. You thought it was cold inside the old cottage, but it is colder still now that the door is open. An unpleasant wind rushes forth to meet you, knifing mercilessly through the fabric of your uniform. You look across the cold, inhospitable landscape, your fingers clenched into fist at your side. Then you step out into the unknown. You canvass the cliff face, led by nothing more than the luxurious singing. So haunting and ethereal is his voice, as it hangs on the breeze, it would be enough to send 1,000 ships off to war. You keep walking into the night until you reach the very edge of the cliffs, where they drop downwards into the empty air. You ought not to go any further. The voice has yet to cease. You can still hear it, echoing inside your head. It compels you to act. You look down at the shore, which seems like a dizzying distance away, then out to the ocean, which is breaking against the scattered rocks below. Your eyes narrow with determination. Then you take a step towards the cliff. These cliffs are steep, and the rocks below them are sharp. You can see them glinting in the darkness, their tips jagged like the teeth of hungry predators. The cold wind blows, rocking your hair, and you shudder from it. Your shoes were not built for scaling cliffs, and your heels do not have much in the way of purchase, particularly not when the cliffs are so steep. Clinging to the cliffs is no small feat, yet you are determined to ease yourself down into the shore. In one piece, preferably. The wind is so powerful, it feels as though there is something deliberately malicious to it. You wonder, during your descent, if it means to knock you off your perch on purpose, to cast you down to the rocks below. This is a bad idea, I feel. Well, if that is what it wants, then you refuse to give it the satisfaction. You can be awfully stubborn at times, and now is one of them. You continue to climb. How long you've been at it now? Until, at long last, your feet meet the shoreline below. You have made it, and you did not sustain too many injuries. Your palms are throbbing, yes, after gripping those rocks, and you might have a few cuts, but your wounds are of a shallow and superficial sort. Things could have been worse. You could have plummeted to your death and turned into a pancake. You flex your fingers. They feel uncomfortably numb and cold alongside it. Your skin is prickling, but at least you can still feel discomfort. At least it is still attached to your bones, where it ought to be, your vital organs concealed within the hollow cavity of your body. You have a lot to be thankful for. This night has, by and large, been quite successful. There are no longer any obstacles between you and the mysterious voice which lulled you outdoors. Now, you must find them. You set off down the shore, on the hunt of the singing voice which has captivated you so. You sidestep sharp, jagged rocks which jut out of the sand like teeth. The rocks which cannot be circumnavigated. Meanwhile, you clamber over. All the while, the sound of the sea mingles with that of the singing. It provides an ethereal, haunting backdrop to your exploration, one which further adds to the surreality of your moonlight stroll. The waves lap against the shore, then recede shyly, pushed and pulled by the bleached white moon which hangs overhead. The oceans that you have seen in your library books were all blue as sapphires, but this ocean is different. It is so late at night, it looks black instead. The undulating surface of the water reminds you of a mirror, though its depths are even deeper. and much more mysterious. A sense of foreboding settles upon you, but you try to quash it. You will not let yourself be afraid. Oh! Ooh! Mermaid! You round a corner, your feet unsteady in their sensible brown shoes, and then, at long last, you see her. There is a woman sitting upon a rock, out in the ocean. The woman's eyes are closed, and her lips are parted, her expression soulful. She is singing. Her hair, which is fair, flutters around her face like a shroud, which adds to her otherworldly aura. Her eyes might be closed, but her lashes are long and luxuriant, like a doll's. Her lips, meanwhile, which are parted in song, are soft, like the freshly plucked petals of a flower. Her face is perfect, as are her proportions. Her neck is tall and slender, like the stem of a flower. As for the lower half of her body, meanwhile, well, she's a fish! It is nothing like anything you have ever seen before. It is here, and here alone, that the woman betrays your narrow human definitions of beauty, for her legs are non-existent. Rather than two awkward appendages, this woman has, instead, the sleek, shimmering tail of a fish. Is she not, then, a human? She cannot be, not with a tail like that. This unusual sight makes you gasp, and quite audibly at that. You do not mean to be rude, but you cannot help yourself. Humans tend to react poorly to things they do not understand. I wonder if she's like a siren or something. At least you do not scream. That would be even ruder. Oh my. You meant to observe the mermaid from a distance, but it would appear that your shocked gasp was loud enough to attract her attention. The fish-tailed vision sitting upon the rock is looking at you. Her gaze is so piercing, it feels almost as if she is looking through you. Your heart seems to stop inside your chest, as if by some manner of magic spell. You thought the mermaid pretty when you first observed her, sitting on that outcrop of rock, her face turned in profile. And she still is. She's still quite pretty, if I do say so myself. Now that she is looking at you, however, you can see that you were mistaken. No, I wasn't. She is not just pretty. She is beautiful. So much so, it is almost unnerving. She looks as though she has stepped out of the pages of a picture book. She is simply too perfect to belong to this world. Perhaps she is some kind of vision? A waking dream? A hallucination? But no, she is none of those things. Her tail might be an impossible thing, but its scales look slick and wet regardless, like those of any fishes one might find at the market. These scales are iridescent, and bathed beneath the light of the moon, they seem almost to glow. The sight of her rather takes your breath away. You look at the mermaid. She looks back at you. You prepare yourself, expecting some sort of altercation. But the surprise soon fades from the mermaid's face. Her lips, which once were pursed in a frown, now shift upwards. She is smiling. Then she says in a refined sort of a voice, My, it really is good to see a human again, particularly a human girl. I was beginning to fear that your kind had all disappeared, and I would no longer have anybody left to tell me of the world above the waters. My, this is quite the effusive greeting. The mermaid's introductory speech is positively brimming with excitement of a sweet, girlish variety. She is rather more amicable than the fine polish of her syllables would make one suggest. You might be a well-bred lady yourself with an accent to match, but you cannot help but feel overwhelmed. Anxiously, you observe the mermaid, and you ask her what she means. What happened? As to that, I'm afraid I cannot say. I have been sitting on these rocks and singing for many, many nights, but nobody has come to see me. There have been no lovely humans for me to play with. I was beginning to wonder whether your kind had disappeared altogether. I feared some manner of calamity had occurred while I was slumbering beneath the water's surface, and your kind had been eradicated. You shudder, then reassure the mermaid to the contrary. You do not know about the humans that she used to speak with, but you, at least, have not been eradicated. Yet, you are still here, for now. Yes, well, I can see that, the mermaid answers with a light laugh. It really is a relief. My fellow mer-people who live beneath the water told me not to worry so, but I could not help myself. I have always been fond of you humans. It was rather sobering, sitting here night after night, all on my own. It gets so lonely here. Now that is an interesting turn of phrase. It catches inside your head like a burr. Have you heard it before? Was it perhaps the title of this visual novel? So, dear human, did you say that you are unfamiliar with these parts? Hesitantly, you examine the mermaid. Thoughtless though you might be, at times you are not so very self-centered that you cannot detect the note of longing in the mermaid's voice. It is evident, as she looks at you, that she is hoping for a particular answer to her query. This answer, alas, is not one that you can furnish her with. You do not want to lie to her. It is after some hesitation, therefore, that you reaffirm your earlier words, though this time you embellish them. You tell the mermaid that you are a traveler from far-off land, one which is very dissimilar to this one. It is not a complete fabrication. You tell her that you have only just arrived by this shore, and you are unfamiliar both with your immediate surroundings and those further afield. If there is a village nearby, then you have never set foot in it. You do not know what this village is like, or how many inhabitants it boasts. You do not know if a calamity, as the mermaid grimly supposed, has struck this land. But if she fears all the humans within the immediate vicinity have been laid low by some mysterious malady, then she needn't worry overly on that score. You are still alive. Are you not, you wonder, enough to satiate her curiosity with the human realm? Yes, that is true. You are here. I am grateful, naturally, for your company. Although... Wistfully, the mermaid sighs. I was rather hoping you might be able to bring me some news of the nearby village and of its inhabitants. This makes you wonder. Was there a particular person from this village she was close to? So, you were able to work out that much? The mermaid answers with a small smile. You are an intelligent one, aren't you? Your past professors would beg to differ on that score. You were always awful when it came to academics. Mathematics in particular. Girl, me too. You could never get your head around all of the numbers. Your stern, stony-faced math professor used to despair in you. But she is not here. None of them are here. It is just you, now, and the mermaid, and she does not need to know about your dismal academic record. You allow yourself a small smile, touched by her compliment, and tell her that it was nothing more than a lucky guess. For a guess, it was remarkably accurate. You're quite right. I did have a close friend from the nearby village. She was very dear to me. Internally, you congratulate yourself on this piece of detective work. How very clever you are! There are many humans in this world. Of that, I know. The human who spoke with me, however, was special. She was my human. You do not fail to catch the possessive note in the mermaid's voice. And I cherished her dearly. She would come to me on my rock, late at night, when she was finished with her chores, and we would talk. I asked her a good number of questions about the human realm, and about her customs. I fear my endless inquiries may have been rather tedious, but she was always happy to indulge me. She never once scorned me for my ignorance. and neither did she make me feel like a fool. She always made time for me, no matter how many demands she had on her time. She was a farmer's daughter, and she was awfully busy from dawn until dusk, threshing hay and taking the animals out to pasture. She told me of her work, and I marveled at her. Slender though she was, she possessed a truly tremendous amount of strength. I, who have lived in the ocean all my life, cannot countenance working as hard as she did, but she bore her burdens without complaining. She was not the prettiest human who has walked the earth, but that mattered not to me. Her conversation was engaging, and I knew, through our continued encounters, that she meant no ill will. She did not even have a single drop of malice in her heart. The wistful manner in which the mermaid speaks of her friend makes you feel, for a few brief moments, a flicker of some ugly, primordial emotion. Could it be jealousy? It is painful, isn't it, to hear others wax poetic about those they hold dear, particularly when you yourself have never been regarded in so intimate a manner. You have, for many, many years, been woefully alone. But you are not alone now. You were with the mermaid, and she was with you. And though she might prefer to be in the company of an industrious farmhand, the farmhand is not here. Where did she go? Oh, if only I knew. She quite simply disappeared one day, almost as if she had been whisked away by a wicked spirit. That seems quite the anticlimactic ending for such a close relationship. Did the farmhand not tell her companion beforehand that she might one day disappear? No, she did not. Nothing of the sort happened. It was all very sudden. Ooh, something might have happened to them then in that case. So, you ask, feeling affronted upon the mermaid's behalf, did she not give you any warning? Not a single one. And when, you ask, did she disappear? I do not know, in truth. Time is a strange concept to beings such as myself, particularly as it seems to ebb and flow differently, both above and below the surface. You humans have a strange compulsion to pin down and to place labels upon everything. You have names for your seasons, and for your months, and even for your days of the week. It is all very precise. We merfolk, however, do not bother with such affairs. Perhaps because we live for so much longer than you humans do. We have no need to obsessively document our days, not when we have so many of them at our disposal. This curious remark catches your attention. How long, exactly, do mermaids live for? The mermaid does not look much older than you do, but you cannot help but wonder. My, nosy, aren't we? The mermaid asks. And she laughs, a soft, tinkling sound, like that of a bell, which makes you blush. Were you being nosy? Perhaps you were. You have always had a thirst for knowledge, not of the dry, dusty, academic variety, but of stories peopled with strange persons. Literature was the only subject you were ever any good at. Girl, me too. Again, it is hard for me to quantify, but to put it in terms a human like you can understand, I suppose we mermaids can live for centuries. So it's very likely that, the farmhand, her friend, girlfriend, may have just grown old and died. Possibly. Centuries? That is quite the surprise. But perhaps it shouldn't be. You have been subjected to any number of surprises tonight. What is one more to add to the pile? I have not been waiting quite that long, however, for my friend to return to me. I think it has been but a few seasons. It might not sound like much, but never before have I been so aware of the passage of time. I have experienced any number of wants during my life, but I have never wanted anything quite as badly as I want to see her. I wish she would sit with me, and she would talk to me. Just one more time. But perhaps I am asking for an impossibility. I have been waiting for long enough now to presume that she will not be returning to me. I fear that something must have happened to her, or to her family, or perhaps to her whole village. You can hear the worry throbbing in the mermaid's voice, so potent that, for a few moments, you swear you can feel the depths of her sorrow within your own breast. Her sadness over this human girl is a deep, dark thing, almost fathomless. You cannot let yourself indulge it for too long. Otherwise, you fear you might drown in it. Ruefully, you tell the mermaid once more that you cannot help her. You are only a traveler, after all. What do you know of a single, insignificant farmhand in a nearby village? Yes, I thought you might say that. It is quite unfortunate, but... oh well. I ought not to reflect upon all that I am missing. That would be churlish of me, and would not be fair to you either. Did not approach me, I am sure, with the hope of hearing about all of my woes. I should be grateful instead for all it is that I do have. I still have my long, long life, which stretches before me like a golden cord. And, of course, I have you now. Does she? Do I not? I ought to go soon, before my absence is noticed. But will you not come and visit me again tomorrow night? I think I would like that. I have always enjoyed speaking to humans. You make me feel less alone. You cannot help but feel, as the mermaid observes you with those enchanting eyes of hers, that she does not truly wish to speak to you for your sake. She wants to use you, instead, as a substitute for the farmhand that she has been missing so very ardently. The thought stings, though you really ought to be used to it. Still, to be held in lower esteem than a farmhand, of all things, it makes your self-esteem sting. You try not to let the mermaid notice this, though. The woes of your past are not her fault, much as the woes of her past are not yours. It is silly, in any case, to be jealous of a girl who might very well be dead. That is what you tell yourself. It is the only way to prop up your bruised sense of self-worth. You would, you tell the mermaid, after a pause, like to see her again. You would like that very much. Oh, thank you. I have been feeling very gloomy for quite some time, but seeing you has invigorated me. Finally, it feels as though I can smile again. Did she not smile, you wonder, after her friend disappeared? I did not, no. I did not have the heart. Without her, the world seemed very dull and drab. Your company has cheered me immensely. This is why I like humans so much. You're not callous and unfeeling, like the merfolk who live beneath the water's surface. You are much kinder than they are. Oh, if only she knew. If the mermaid was aware, I wonder, of how petty you are, and how jealous, would she still care for you? Well, that is neither here nor there. You agree to meet with the mermaid come sundown the following night, then make your slow, stumbling way back up the cliffs, then to the cottage you have purloined as your own. Once indoors, you settle down upon your pallet, and then you close your eyes. The sighing of the wind outside and the distant roiling of the waves against the rocks do not disturb you. You feel, after your midnight encounter of a marish kind, quite at ease, perhaps prematurely so. What happened to the icy fear which prompted your frantic flight through the forest? Where is all that gone? Do you not think you are being a bit complacent? No? Oh well, you will. The following morning, when it arrives, is cloudy and overcast. It is not a particularly pleasant morning, but at least it is not raining. That is some small consolation. You rise from your straw pallet, stretching, then glance about the interior of the fisherman's cottage. It looked dilapidated last night, when much of it was obscured by the shadows, but it looks even more so when subjected to the morning's light. The cottage's interior has the distinct, disquieting appearance of having been abandoned in a hurry. There is broken pottery strewn upon the ground, and the singular wooden chair, which once must have stood by the singular wooden table, is lying on the floor. The doors of the cupboards, meanwhile, are ajar, the shelves within depressingly bare. A quick search reveals a handful of edibles, but there is precious little to be getting on with. If you wish to live here comfortably, you'll have to look into foraging. You ate very little last night, and your stomach is empty. It was the malcontented rumblings of your stomach, an actual fact, which roused you from your slumber. But your body seems to be very far away indeed, much like the gray clouds which choke the sky. You are not thinking of your own physical discomforts. You are dwelling, instead, upon the events of the night prior. You cannot help but think of the mermaid. Did you truly meet an aquatic maiden last night, during your nightly stroll when you could not sleep? It sounds unreal, especially now that the sun has risen and the shadows from the night prior have dispersed. You cannot quite believe it. It must have been a dream. But why, then, can you recall it so clearly? You help yourself to the scant food and drink available to you, all the while thinking of your next course of action. Okay, I got a question. If this place is abandoned for probably a really long time, wouldn't anything edible in there be, moldy? Protagonist, I don't know if you should be eating or drinking this, but you know what? Do what you gotta do. Now, what are you to do? You plan, of course, to return to the shore come nightfall, so that you might once again see the mermaid, but the night will not arrive for quite some time. You need to find some means of keeping yourself occupied until then. The uninspiring interior of the cottage does not furnish you with any particular ideas, so you decide to go for a walk. Your soles still ache after your excursions last night, but if you go slowly, you ought to be alright. That is what you hope, at least. You do not want to spend much longer than you have to in the fisherman's cottage, no matter how cold it might be outdoors. It's almost as cold inside as it is out, and, in any case, the cottage is far too small. You leave the cottage behind you and set off. You do not know where exactly you are going, but you suppose it does not matter overly much. You do not have any particular destination in mind. Your meanderings lead you to the cliffs, which are steep and sharp. You drop to the shore in a perilous one, so much so that you have to wonder how you were able to descend the cliffs the night prior to meet the mermaid. You are rather more determined than you ever realized. Though I, of course, could have told you that much. You are surprisingly capricious for such a small, slender human. You walk along the side of the cliffs, keeping a sensible distance away from the drop to the shore. You might have survived last night's excitement unscathed, but you do not fancy trying your luck. It would be so like you, really, to avoid a drop to your death in the darkness, only to stumble during the morning's light and take an irreversible tumble. Your fortunes have never been the fairest. Your meanderings along the cliff reveal to you all manner of curious flora. You thought the night prior that the cliffs were rather blasted, but you can see now that your assumptions were incorrect. There are flowers here, very warm and bright, like the sun's light during the summertime. Or, you think, with a flush of pleasure, the fair hair of the mermaid, whom you are certain you spoke to last night. These flowers are so very like her hair, it is uncanny. You step towards the flowers, drawn towards them, and sink down to your knees. The tall grass brushes your ankles like a caress, the morning's dew wetting your skirt. Your clothes are getting damp, as are your legs, but you care not for this minor discomfort. You have just had an idea. Why not make a gift for your new friend? You are sure that she would appreciate it. Why would she not? She told you, in a voice which was steeped with dolor, that she had been feeling lonely. You want to see her again. And when you see her next, you would like to make her smile. It is with this thought in mind that you begin to pick the flowers which are growing upon the cliffside. These flowers do not have any thorns, and their delicate stems snap easily enough between your fingers. You take care when plucking these flowers to leave a substantial amount of stem intact. You will need these stems so that you might twine the flowers together. You mean to make for your mermaid a diadem, something she will be able to wear in her hair. This tiara is certain to suit her. She is so pretty, anything would suit her. You continue to work, slow and steadfast, as the weak sun shines. It takes time, but you are eventually able to fashion something you are satisfied with. You only hope the mermaid will feel similarly. If indeed she really does exist. Carefully, you pocket your makeshift diadem, then decide to forage for some food. You discover, during your search, some fruit trees whose sweet burdens are enough to fortify your spirits. For the present, at least. It is fortunate, really, that you were so excited about your moonlight rendezvous with the mermaid. If you were less focused upon the future and dwelt more on the immediate present, you might have had more of an appetite. The emptiness in your stomach assuaged, you return to the cottage, whereat you mean to wait for the setting of the sun. There is very little to do, you soon discover, in the cottage other than checking the cupboards and sweeping the floor, occupations which both feel depressingly pointless. There are no books to read either, with which you might pass your idle hours. You do, however, busy yourself with trying to light a fire, so that you might ward off the cold. The time is horribly slow in passing, in part because you have precious little to do, but also because you cannot stop thinking of the mermaid. Will she really return to the shore as she said she would? Can you truly trust her? Oh, you hope that you can. If she were not present at your designated meeting place, I think you would die from disappointment. Something, anyway. The seconds continue to trickle by, unchecked by any hourglass, and as they do, the sun sinks beneath the horizon. Part of you worries, however, that it might still be too early to search for the mermaid. Will she be there yet? You sit there, your stomach tied up in anxious knots, and as you listen to the wind, which buffets your windows, you hear it. The sound is faint, but you recall it well from the night before. There is a single solitary voice outdoors, tempest-tossed amidst the roiling waves. The voice is a high, clear one, silvery, if indeed voices can have colors, like a finely polished dinner plate in a noblewoman's home. The voice belongs, of course, to the mermaid. Who else do you know with a voice as angelic as that? Relief begins to bubble up inside you, a relief so potent you feel dizzy from it. She did not abandon you after all. Why, you wonder, did you ever think she would? She said that she wanted to see you. Did you think that a mere nicety? Buoyed, as if by a gentle breeze, you hurry to the door. With trembling fingers, they are trembling, I presume, from excitement rather than fear, you seize the handle, then turn it. Then you step out into the dark, inky night. You walk towards the cliffs, as you did the night prior, beneath the cover of the inky blue sky, the wind moaning fitfully with every step you take. Your soul still ached from your expedition the day prior, but you were able to ignore this discomfort. It seems irrelevant, really, when compared to the prospect of once again meeting the mermaid. You have known her for only one night, yet she has come to mean more to you than your own well-being. You would do anything for the mermaid if she asked it. Well, almost anything. You hurry down the sharp incline of the cliffs to the shore, almost stumbling in your scuffed brown shoes, which really were not built with rock climbing in mind. So frantic are you in your attempts to once again make the mermaid's acquaintance, you very nearly fall. It is quite a good thing that you still have enough sense about you to regain your footing. Otherwise, this tale would come to a premature ending. Eventually, you make your way onto the shore, then approach the jagged outcrop of rock, whereat you last saw the mermaid. Like the night prior, the mermaid is perched upon these rocks, her fair hair strewn about her shoulders. When she sees you from across the shore, she ceases her singing, and her eyes light up. Or at least, they seem to. So you have returned to me, my hero, the mermaid says, and then lightly she giggles. Or perhaps I should say, heroine? Her praise makes you blush. You do not feel worthy of it. Nobody has ever called you a heroine before. You do not even think of yourself as a heroine. If a story were made about you, you rather think that you would be a supporting character, one without her own voice. You are not interesting enough. The mermaid seems to think that you are, though. She is staring at you delightedly, as though you were the one person in the world she most wishes to speak to. The thought makes you tremble, but not as much as the mermaid's gaze. You tell the mermaid that you do not think you are so very brave, but she dismisses your awkward remark with a laugh. I think you are. I saw the way you scaled those cliffs. I thought that was very heroic. Oh, so she saw that, did she? Then did she see how you slipped down the cliffs, grazing your palms in the process, and how you very nearly fell? You have never been the most graceful of girls, but to have your failings exposed before a being as poised and as perfect as the mermaid, it stings a little bit. More, in fact, than the resultant grazes on your palms, your clumsiness wrought upon you. You tell the mermaid that there was nothing so very heroic about all of that. You're simply excited, that is all, to see her again. You weren't thinking. Well, that makes two of us. I was excited to see you again. She was? Naturally. I had a very good time speaking to you last night. I had hoped that we might resume our correspondence. That is why I came to the rocks a bit earlier than usual. I was waiting for you. Did you hear my song? Yes, you reply, with a nod of your head. You heard it, all the way in the abandoned cottage. It called out to you. That was the general idea. I was singing for you. She was. You do not think that you are worthy of the mermaid's song, but if she does not mind dedicating her voice to you, then... Well, who else would I dedicate my voice to? There is nobody else to hear me. That is a good point, you suppose. Shyly, you look back at the mermaid. You thank her for her song. It was very beautiful. Then tell her, before you can lose your nerve, that you have prepared a present for her too. Oh? Have you really? You have. It is a small thing, nothing more than a silly trinket, but if it would not be too much of an imposition, then... With clumsy fingers, you reach into your pocket. For a few moments, you fret that your near fall down the cliff might have damaged the delicate chain nestled within it, but your worries are in vain. The chain is surprisingly sturdy, given it was made with only a few flowers and it is held firm against the odds. You handle the chain with great care all the same, however, as you hold it out, presenting it for the mermaid's approbation. It was for the mermaid that you fashioned this chain. You thought that it would look nice nestled in her hair. You were pleased with the chain when you first made it, but after looking at the mermaid, you have begun to reconsider. The mermaid's beauty is otherworldly, so much so, it almost hurts to look at her. Your flower crown, by comparison, seems a very meager offering indeed. The longer you hold your gift out, the more unworthy it feels. You have half a mind, as the seconds elapse, to snatch your silly, wholly unworthy gift back from the mermaid before she can judge you too harshly. But the mermaid's lips curve upwards into a smile, and, in a voice so full of gratitude it makes your heart throb, she says, "Oh my, did you make this for me?" "Well, yes," you reply, still feeling a little flustered. "You saw these flowers earlier, when you went for a walk, and they made you think of her. Not, you hasten to add, that you think her beauty is comparable to these flowers. They are far inferior when contrasted with her good looks. You simply thought..." You are unable to get the rest of the sentence out, however, because the mermaid interrupts you. Not rudely, but with something resembling compassion. Perhaps she pities you. She must be able to hear how your voice is trembling. Can she also see the way your hands tremor? Oh dear. Faint heart never won the hand of a fair maiden, you know. What happened to all of your confidence? I think that your gift is a wonderful one. I did not expect it at all, but it is really pretty. You look at your feet, too shy to meet the mermaid's gaze. Then you say, very quietly, that you are glad that she thinks so, but she does not need to spare your ego. You have precious little of it left as it is. The mermaid seems touched by your shyness. Perhaps she likes her prey to be self-conscious? Because she smiles. I am not simply saying things to spare your ego. I am not like that. Humans might spout platitudes as easily as they breathe air, but I do not compliment others unless I truly mean it. Is that not the point of speech? To have an honest dialogue with one another? If one party in a conversation is withholding their true intentions, conversation is impossible. Playing games is a waste of my time, particularly given my time above the surface is so very limited. Oh. You blush at this, more deeply still, and survey the mermaid beneath the full fringe of your eyelashes. Then she really does like it. Did I not just say that? You humans are so very funny. What with all of your second guessing. She was like that too in the beginning. She? My friend. The mermaid's answer is a simple one, but it makes your stomach clench regardless. Ah, yes, her friend. How could you have forgotten about her? She used to make me gifts too, you know. Gifts like this one. She would pick flowers on the cliffs, over there, where I cannot tread. The mermaid gestures with one hand to the cliffs, which tower above the shore, tall and imposing, as though to stab the sky above. And she would fashion them into crowns like this one, and bracelets. I was appreciative of her tokens, though she was similarly shy when she first presented them to me. She did not seem to think very much of her handiwork. And her are remarkably similar, really. There is no gill in the mermaid's voice, but her words have rather taken the wind out of your sails. Of course, the cowherd gave the mermaid gifts. Why would she not? The mermaid is so beautiful. She is so very beautiful. Like a entirely goddess, she seems to invite tribute simply by existing. Were you more religious, or more irreligious maybe, you might even consider worshipping her. Though in essence, is that not what you were doing with your flower crown? How silly of you to think that your ideal was an original one. I might be accustomed to gifts, but it has been a long time since any human has bequeathed me with anything. This is a pleasant surprise. I am truly thankful for your kindness, dear one. The mermaid leans forward on her rock, so as to pluck the circlet from your fingers. Her benevolent smile, all the while, is unwavering. And now that I look at your gift more closely, I rather think it is of a superior quality to the gifts my old friend once gave me. Now this is enough to make you start, if the touch of the mermaid's fingers upon your own was not. Could your silly gift really be better than those she once accepted? I think so. My friend's trinkets were all rather clumsy in execution, though I cherished them nonetheless. They were very precious to me. They did not last very long, though. Not when I took them with me, to my home beneath the ocean. The waters soon rend the fragile links between the flower stems asunder. Your diadem, however, seems more sturdy, but it is, by the same token, very delicate. You must be very good with your hands. You think back, briefly, on your disastrous sewing lessons in the past, of your numerous failed attempts to thread your needle, while the other girls giggled at you, and you blush. You think the mermaid's praise might be a touch too effusive. You tell the mermaid as much, but she only laughs. I do not think so. No. Oh, hey, she's wearing them. Nice. The mermaid places your floral trinket upon her head, over her long, fair hair, then surveys you in a manner which seems almost coquettish. What do you think? You think that the mermaid looks radiant, but that is less because of your gift and more because of her natural looks. You tell the mermaid this, though not in terms quite this glowing, and she giggles. You are selling yourself too short. I think your gift is lovely, really. The flowers rather match my hair. Yes, you answer, with a nod of your head. That is why you picked those flowers. She is all you have been able to think of. I am glad that you have been thinking of me. I, in truth, have been thinking of you, though I did not wish to say as much. No? No, it would be embarrassing to confess how much I have been looking forward to our reunion if you did not feel similarly. I do not care to pine for humans from afar. But if you care for me as I do you, then it makes me feel less alone. You hasten to assure the mermaid, your face aflame. Do you ever stop blushing? Goodness gracious. That you do care for her, very much so. You have not known her for very long, but she has certainly made an impression upon you. She is such an easy conversationalist. The time simply slips by when you are together. And it does not hurt, of course, that she is so pretty. I have heard it said, yes, that my looks are rather appealing. My old friend was similarly complimentary. Cannot blame you humans for being so taken with me, when my form is so very graceful. Your legs seem rather cumbersome in comparison to my smooth, sleek tail. It must be so very depressing to lumber about on land as you do, living your days beneath the harsh sun and the cool, unfeeling moon. Sometimes I think I rather pity you. But the surface is a good deal brighter than it is beneath the ocean. I will grant you that much. You agree with the mermaid, still feeling flushed, but there are some perks to having legs, an agreement which makes the mermaid giggle. I am certain that there are, but you cannot explore the ocean's depths as I can. I presume you have never tried it? You shake your head no. You had never thought to do so, largely because you have never been so close to the sea before, not in all of your life. You did not have much opportunity for nautical exploration in the past. You were not allowed to go anywhere then, save to the local church. It was quite a lonely existence. Well now, that is a pity. You were kind enough to give me a gift. Fashioned from flowers which grow where I cannot reach them. So perhaps I ought to return the favor. The favor? Yes, that is right. It would seem only fitting that I give to you something which can only be found in the ocean's depths. Perhaps we could look at it as a form of cultural exchange. Oh no, you protest, your eyes wide. You couldn't possibly put such a burden upon her. You did not give her a gift, after all, because you wanted to receive anything in return. Anything other than her friendship, that is. Her conversation is more than enough to satisfy you. You do not need any physical presence on top of that. The mermaid does not seem convinced, however, by your naysaying. She raises one eyebrow. Even this gesture is performed elegantly, then says, If my company is all it takes to satisfy you, then you are easy to please indeed. But please, do not rebuff me. I am offering because I wish to do this. Remember what I said. I do not say things for the sake of it. Well, you murmur, if she really doesn't mind. Of course I do not mind. Now, wait there. I will not be very long. It would be rude to abandon my new friend in the midst of a conversation. The mermaid turns her attention towards the clear, mirror-like water, which simmers beneath the moonlight. Then she dives. Her body arches elegantly through the air, her long, slender limbs cleaving through the surface of the water with nary a ripple. The mermaid's face is first submerged, then her torso, and at long last her tail. The water rushes forth to envelop her, as though it has been waiting for her. It subsumes her. It swallows her. Then she disappears from view. The mermaid is gone, but you are still there. Well, now what are you to do? There is nothing that can be done, you suppose, save waiting. You stand there for several moments, watching the black water lap against the shore. The breeze howls mournfully, like a wounded animal as it buffets your hair about your face and your torn skirt around your legs. Time elapses, but how much of it? While you stand there, fretfully, feeling as ostentatious as a maypole. When will the mermaid return? Will she ever return? You are starting to worry. Is that all you do? When... Look, over there, by the rocks upon which the mermaid once sat. The water is rippling. It looks as though your new friend has returned. The mermaid pulls herself onto the rocks, using a surprising amount of upper body strength, then smiles at you. I apologize for the wait. I hope I did not make you worry. You were worrying, but you are not half so honest as the mermaid. Mermaids might be spoken of as devious tricksters who lure sailors to their deaths, but they are, in actuality, very sincere. They are much more sincere than most humans. Perhaps that is why your kind fears them so. There are few creatures who inhabit this world whose capacity for lying is greater than your own. You tell the mermaid that you are not worrying, and she answers with a wry smile. I am not so sure about that. The mermaid is wilier than you are giving her credit for. She has seen straight through you. But no matter. It took me some time, but I was finally able to retrieve a gift for you. I do not have the means to turn this into a pretty piece of jewelry, as you did with the flowers, but I wish to give it to you nonetheless. I do hope that you like it. The mermaid leans forward, then holds her gift out towards you, her slender fingers unfurl about it, like the petals of a flower being folded back, and... Oh, what a pretty gift it is! The ocean might be dark and deep, cold and unfeeling, but the same cannot be said for the object which glitters upon the mermaid's palm. She has fished, from the depths of the water, a beautiful shell, one which simmers in prismatic colors beneath the moon's light, much like the scales on her tail. The shell is so very pretty, it quite takes your breath away. You look at the shell worriedly, your teeth biting your lower lip. That is a bad habit, you know. It will make yourself bleed. Then ask the mermaid if this is really alright. Would a gift like this not be wasted upon you? Of course not. I want you to have this shell because it makes me think of you. It does? How so? I thought it should be obvious. The shell is a lovely find. As are you. Oh. Ew. Did she just call you lovely? Surely you must have misheard her. You can scarcely believe it. It is an awful lot for you to take in, but... Now, why are you gawping at me like that? The wind will change, you know, and then your face will be stuck like that, which would be quite the shame. You would waste your good looks, which for a maiden such as yourself would be nothing short of a tragedy. It seems as though the mermaid really does think you are pretty after all. The mermaid with her smooth skin and her fair, fair hair. You can scarcely believe it. There is something almost laughable about the mermaid's compliments. How could she call you pretty when her looks are so immediately, obviously superior? Tongue-tied, you look at your feet. You do not know how to reply to the mermaid. You have half a mind to refute her words, to tell her that you are not that pretty, not really. But you fear that might look rude. You do not want to rebuff the mermaid's well wishes. There is nothing for it then but to take the shell which the mermaid retrieved from the ocean depths for you. You do not think that you are worthy of it, but neither do you want to refuse it. Now that is a surprise, the mermaid says, amused as you reach for the shell. I did not think you would be bold enough to take it, not without more coaxing on my part. You have exceeded my expectations. What a good girl you are. Your heart flutters with this praise, and it flutters all the more when your trembling fingers brush against the mermaid's palm. She presses the shell into your skin, and your own fingers tighten about it. The shell is sharp and pointed, and it digs uncomfortably into your skin. It hurts. But there is pleasure in the pain. This, too, feels like a gift from the mermaid. You do not want to spurn it. Even pain can be a precious thing when dealt by one whom you care for. You never knew that before. You hold the shell to your heart, which is beating in irregular rhythm, and look at the mermaid. Then, very softly, you thank her. It is quite all right. It seems only fair, after you shared part of your world with me. I wish to share part of my world with you too. Humans cannot normally descend beneath the ocean's depths, and even if they do, they cannot remain there for very long. You are far too fragile. Would that I could, it would bring you with me to my underwater kingdom, where we might be together. The mermaid's melodic voice trails away, suffused with something resembling melancholia. She sighs. She shakes her head and smiles. But this will have to do for the present. Please, take good care of that shell. Look at it from time to time, and think of me. That would make me very happy indeed. The days pass, following this nightly encounter with your aquatic acquaintance, with an almost intolerable slowness. You endure the hours of sunlight as best you can by going for long, bracing walks amidst the heather, foraging for berries and fruits among the hedgerows. You even, when you have mustered up enough courage, take an old fishing line uncovered in the fisherman's cottage and try your luck by the shore. Your initial attempts at angling are without success, but as the time passes, your proficiency in the art grows. Some time after you take up your rod, you find you're able to catch the odd fish here and there. Small, scrawny things, mostly, but the meat goes a ways to bolstering your rudimentary diet. You teach yourself how to remove the scales of these saltwater fish that you have captured, and how to gut them. You learn, too, how to cook them over a simple fire. Sometimes you skewer these fish of yours on spikes and roast them slowly, innards and all. You're able to sustain yourself well enough during the day, though the faint pangs of hunger you experience never quite go away. Your physical discomfort, however, is secondary when it comes to your desire to visit the mermaid. Your days might be dull and drab, but your nights, comparatively, are made of magic. This can only end so well. It is only during the night that the mermaid emerges from beneath the waves, and when she does, you hurry to her side. You have never before had anybody who took so great an interest in you, not until you met the mermaid. That is why she has grown to mean so very much to you. She is the first friend you have ever had. But if you do not temper your obsession accordingly, I fear she may very well be your last. You care little for the potential danger, however, which lurks beneath your interactions with the mermaid. You only want to show the mermaid how much that you value her, and you hope within time that she will come to value you too. If you keep seeing her, surely she will stop thinking of her human friend whom she lost so suddenly. That is your plan, at least. Fortunately, your self-serving wish to grow closer to the mermaid seems close to being granted. Your nightly conversations, when you greet her, come easily enough, the words tumbling from your mouth like thread. You have grown rather comfortable in the mermaid's company, and she yours. She must have, for it is not long after you bequeathed your diadem of flowers to the mermaid that she looks at you, then posits a curious question. I was wondering, dear one, whether you would mind indulging me. I know this might not seem like an appealing proposition, but I thought it would be remiss of me not to ask. I have seen some of your world, for I have sat on the shore for many, many nights hence, but you have seen nothing of mine. It seems unfair that I should know some of the world that you inhabit, while you know so little of my own. So, would you care to come with me, beneath the ocean's waves? There is much that I wish to show you, sights that cannot, I fear, be accurately represented in my language alone. Words can be awfully stifling when it comes to the communication of experiences such as this. It is quite the florid speech, but at the heart of it beats a simple enough request. The mermaid wishes to bring you beneath the ocean's surface, so that she might show you her home. You are flattered initially, but the mermaid wishes to show you something so personal. Well, there's a slight problem with that, ma'am. But after this flutter of flattery, there comes an uncomfortable sense of unease. The mermaid might feel at home beneath the water's surface, but what of you? You are a human girl with 2 awkward, ungainly legs, and you are not made to live under the sea. You frown, and mistrustfully, you look at the ocean. It is late at night, as it always is when you speak to the mermaid, and the water does not look blue. It appears instead to be obsidian. The waves moan as they break against the rocks, which jut out of the shore like a mighty dragon's bones. They sound angry, violent almost. Salty sea spray arcs through the air, caught in the moonlight. It shimmers, sharp as knives. Hesitantly, you take a step back. You are a little afraid of the sea. It is so restless, so deep, and so all-consuming. It reminds you of a hungry monster. You have never submerged yourself beneath the ocean before. You never had the opportunity. You do not even know how to swim. Well, that sucks for you. You are fearful for your own safety, should you consent to dive beneath the undulating meniscus? That word. Of the water. But do not look so frightened, dear one. I will be with you, and I will not let you go. You have my word. I think you letting go of us isn't the problem here. It's not the issue here, ma'am. Shyly, you glance at the mermaid. She is still perched upon her rock, her hands folded neatly upon her. Well. Well. She does not have a lap. Not really. It's not what I'm willing at. You are still afraid, but the mermaid's reassurance does help. Am I gonna get a choice here, or... Has she not told you numerous times that she is nothing if not honest? You trust her not to break her word. She will not leave you beneath the waves, abandoning you to a cruel, lonely fate, to become the food of so many fish. Of that, you are certain. That is why, despite all of your misgivings, you find yourself nodding your head. If that is what she wants, then you will accompany her and drown. You are interested, too, in what lies beneath the ocean's surface, out of sight. Oh, I knew that you would agree. Thank you so very much for humoring me. I will endeavor to make these next few moments the most memorable you have ever experienced before you die a horrible, gruesome death by drowning. Now, would you care to come with me? I shall be your guide. The ocean's depths might be dark, but I will not let you get away from me. I promise. The mermaid extends her hand towards you, a hand which seems to cut through the moonlight, just like a blade. The moon's celestial rays play against the mermaid's upturned palm so that it shimmers. The mermaid's hair, too, is glowing, backlit by Selene's glow, so that she almost looks like an angel. Her beauty is such that, for a few moments, you cannot do anything, neither step towards her nor back away. You feel frozen in place, rooted into the sand, like some shore-growing tree. You still do not understand why the mermaid has taken such an interest in you, but an old adage does occur to you. You ought not to look a gift horse in the mouth, or ignore the pleas of a graceful, dignified mermaid. You reach out, your arms shaking like the skinny bow of an ancient tree, and find the mermaid's hand with your own. The mermaid's fingers curl about your own, her nails. Only now do you notice how sharp they are, digging into your skin. But the mermaid herself looks very soft. Her grip is surprisingly strong. You do not think, if she willed it, you would be able to get away from her. Well, yeah. But why would you want to? She does not mean you any harm. She's only going to drag you beneath the surface and drown you. That's, just little mermaid things. Now, let us be on our way. There is much to see in my underwater kingdom. I cannot wait to show it to you. To your corpse, I mean, because you're going to be dead. The mermaid turns toward the ocean, as do you. A brief moment passes, one during which you allow yourself to stand there, your hand claimed by the mermaids as the wind buffets your hair and your skirts. You inhale deeply. The smell of the salt is heavy in the back of your nostrils, so much so you could choke on it. It is not a particularly pleasant smell, but you have grown accustomed to it after living in your tumble-down cottage by the shore. It is nostalgic, almost. You have a vague feeling, as you stand on the precipice between your world and that of your aquatic companions, that you might never again be able to smell the salt in the air like this. That is just a silly supposition, though. You're not gonna drown. It's not gonna happen. No. Look, unless she whips out some mermaid magic, we're about to drown here. You are being foolish. The mermaid will return you back to the surface in due course, will she not? You hope that she will. You, unlike her, cannot breathe underwater. Not to mention, there's another problem, aside from the breathing problem, is the pressure problem. You know, mermaid might be able to go super deep, but a human, maybe mermaid magic? I don't know. You open your mouth, meaning to ask the mermaid about this fact, but you are not afforded the opportunity to speak. The mermaid has already shifted, her fingers still twined about yours. She dives forward, her body slicing through the surface of the water like a knife, and you, inexorably, are dragged along with her. Oh, well, it's gonna end well. The water rushes forwards to meet you in a sudden, shocking rush. The mermaid's descent might be graceful, but yours is anything but. You do not know how to position your legs, and your limbs feel awfully ungainly. The shock of the water as it touches your skin, meanwhile, is intense. You did not think the water would be this cold. No, it is not just cold, it is freezing. It feels as though all the warmth has been sapped out of your skin. If your head was not already beneath the ocean's waves, you would gasp from it. You do not gasp, however. You cannot. You have already been submerged. Your body no longer feels as though it is your own. Your hair is unspooling behind you like thread, and your skirt is fluttering. Your body rocks to and fro, as though being soothed in a mother's arms. It is a curious feeling, but it is not wholly unpleasant. If only it were not so cold down here, beneath the ocean's depths, you might find it relaxing. You know, when you're not drowning. It is dark under the surface of the water, yes, but you have not ventured so very far. Not yet, at least, that the glow of the moon cannot penetrate its depths. Your surroundings are illuminated, though faintly, and thanks to this precious illumination, you can see the schools of fish swimming about you. Their scales all glisten, as they arc through the waves like rainbows. They do not look like life forms. They appear, instead, to your fairy tale-addled mind, to be ancient relics brought to life through some strange arcane sorcery. They are pretty. No, that word is not significant enough. They are beautiful. You did not know, as you stood upon the shore, how very full of life it was beneath the water's surface. You did not know, either, how very beautiful these aquatic denizens of the deep were. You have never seen fish like these before. Not in real life. You have memories, vague, hazy memories, of dissecting a fish once in a particularly gruesome biology lesson. But that feels like a very long time ago now. You would far rather think on your present than dwell upon the past. But the seconds pass, and as they do, the mermaid continues to swim, leading you deeper and deeper into the ocean's depths. While once you were close enough to the surface that the moon's light could still slice through the waves, now it is so very dark you can scarcely see. Oh boy, okay. Your vision is beginning to blur. You can feel an uncomfortable pressure weighing down on your inert body. You have descended, you realize, with a ripple of anxiety, too deep. Humans were not meant to descend into these depths. The water, once cold, now feels freezing. It caresses every inch of your exposed flesh, as if to sap what little warmth you might still possess. We did not think about this very hard before we did this. Not at all. You shiver, and when you do, you swear that you can hear your teeth chattering, despite the water which stops your ears. The water is stoppering up your... Stoppering. The water is stoppering up your nostrils. There's so much water down here, at the bottom of the ocean. It is endless. The mermaid might be able to breathe underwater. You are not so very fortunate. Your body is far less sophisticated than hers, and it requires oxygen, with which to furnish your body with continued strength, not salt water. The thought of trying to inhale the endless water which surrounds you makes you shudder. You would rather not attempt it. You do not have gills. When will the mermaid take you back to the surface? Surely she must know that you have fast begun to near your limit. You have been under the water for too long, and it is too cold. And it is so dark now, in any event, you cannot see much of anything. The joy you once felt during your underwater adventure has begun to dissipate, just like the last of the oxygen you still possess. It is time to return to the surface now. How are you to communicate this to the mermaid? You cannot speak, and she is not looking at you. She is staring, instead, fixedly, at something beyond your comprehension, something far away, perhaps, in the underwater gloom that you cannot see. Not knowing what else to do, you try to pull your arm free from the mermaid's grasp. You hope that this will signal to her that she has grown too carried away in her endeavors, that she ought to cut short your expedition and return you to the shore. The mermaid does not react, however, to your attempts to escape her. Her grip does not slacken, as you had hoped, from about your wrist. In fact, it is quite the opposite. It feels as though she is gripping you more tightly than she was, as if to prevent your escape. But why would she do that? Certainly not to drown you. You tap on the mermaid's shoulder to get her attention, a gesture which prompts her, at long last, to turn. Her fair hair billows about her, suspended in the water like a shroud. Then she says, in that calm, measured, incredibly reasonable voice of hers, "Yes, dear one? What is it?" If you could, you would open your mouth to reply to her, but alas! You are a human girl, not a fish, and you cannot speak underwater, and you did not think any of this through whatsoever. Any attempt to do so would accomplish naught save filling your pretty little mouth with water. The mermaid really ought to have considered that before she started to ask you questions. But your comfort seems to be the last thing on the mermaid's mind. She smiles at you gently, delicately, then says, "I understand. Being underwater for so long must be beginning to take its toll. Do your lungs feel like iron? Are they heavy?" So she does understand your woes. You might not be able to speak, suspended as you are in the dark, murky depths, but communication is not wholly impossible. You nod your head emphatically, hoping that this will be enough to make your distress apparent. But... "Yes, that will happen. It is a natural part, so I have heard, of drowning. Not that I have ever had the opportunity to experience it for myself." I told you she's drowning us. "I am incapable, you see, of meeting my demise in such a manner. I'm gonna sit in this water and watch you drown." Now what was that? She's trying to drown us. Who could have seen this coming? What could she mean? "I mean," the mermaid answers, can she read minds, "that this was a calculated act upon my part. Forgive me, dear one, but the moment you consented to sinking beneath the water with me, your fate was sealed. Your lungs will be flooded with water soon enough. Then you will die. It is not a pretty way to go. You needn't worry about your corpse bloating, disfiguring, or being eaten by fish, though. I will take very good care of it. I promise. In death, you would look lovely, almost angelic. Is that not what you always wanted?" You do not know what the mermaid thinks it is exactly that you want, but you think she is laboring under some severe misunderstandings. You would like to try and correct her. You do not want to die. But of course, you cannot open your mouth. What a pity. Well, at least it saves me the effort of transcribing your dying pleas. I thought they would be particularly interesting. If you want to know why I am doing this, then I would not mind obliging. I have no secrets to keep from you. Other than the secret, perhaps, that upon your first meeting, she nursed within her cold fish's heart the desire to bring about your watery murder? You might have liked to know that before you agreed to sink beneath the ocean surface with her. I am only doing this because I have no choice. The other girl I liked, after all, the one whom I adored, disappeared. She went away, and I was never again afforded the opportunity to see her. You remind me of that girl, though you do not look much alike. You do not act very alike either. But you are both humans who, despite your delicacies, have no shortage of determination. How your kind is able to live when your lifespans are so very short, and you are very susceptible to so many diseases, is a mystery to me. Though my lifespan far eclipses your own, and I am far sturdier, I cannot help but marvel at the tenacity of you humans. I know that, if I were as fragile as you, I would not be able to exist in this world. I would be far too afraid. I would see my own death lurking behind every corner. Just as you can see your own death looming before your eyes, because you were stupid and decided to do this. It is not so very far away now. You can feel it coming closer and closer, and closing its cold, icy fingers around your throat. You humans are incredible. I cannot help but respect you, weak and pitiful though you are. She respects your tenacity so very much she wishes to extinguish it? That does not make very much sense. Perhaps my words are confusing you, but it makes perfect sense. To me, at least. My beloved cowherd left me. I do not know where she went, or what happened to her. Perhaps she was murdered by bandits. Perhaps she contracted a horrible disease. Perhaps she simply fell and cracked her skull. I do not know. I will never know. For many, many days and many, many nights, her disappearance tormented me. I could not help but wonder how it came about. But there were so many possibilities, I could not imagine all of them. This thought terrified me. It still does. That is why I am going to take you to my underwater kingdom with me. There, we can be together forever. Nothing will ever be able to tear us apart then. I will brush your hair. I will dress you in the finest pearls found from the bottom of the seabed. It will be lovely. Much, much lovelier than any sort of miserable existence you might be able to eke out above the water. In my citadel, you will never be attacked by bandits, nor ravaged by diseases. You will be quite safe, I promise. Quite safe, yes, and quite dead too, surely. Well, yes, that is the only unfortunate aspect of my plan. She considers your death nothing more than a mere misfortune. The mermaid might be surprisingly cold after all. But perhaps you ought to have predicted this. She is part fish. Are fish not cold-blooded, like lizards? You probably learned this at some point during biology class, but your lessons are beginning to feel very faint and far away now. Your body is beginning to fail you. You cannot take much more of this. It is a necessary sacrifice, though we are to be happy. I'm doing this, you know, for both our sakes. I do apologize for tricking you, but please, try to understand. Try to understand that I want you dead. I really have been lonely. You would be more inclined to sympathize with her, perhaps, if her loneliness was not ushering in your inevitable demise. But you were too preoccupied with your dwindling reserves of oxygen to feel much in the way of anything for your captor. You can feel the pressure of the water against your eyes. They are beginning to ache. Perhaps you are crying. You do not know. The water masks much of your anguish. You have been drifting underwater for almost 3 minutes. That is a remarkably long time to go without any air, and we're starting to look a bit purple there. Your vision is beginning to cloud. Your surroundings, already dark, looking darker still, unpleasant and obscure, and not at all like the paradise the mermaid promised you. The pain of being suffocated, slowly, is far stronger and far more oppressive than the sensation of the mermaid's hand wound tightly about your arm. Is there no escape for you? The prognosis, I am sorry to say, is grim. You really shouldn't have said yes to this mermaid. Your fate, as the mermaid said, really was sealed the moment you met her, luxuriating on those rocks beneath the moonlight. But you'll forgive me if my sympathy is limited. You did bring this upon yourself, you know. You reap what you sow, and in your case, you made a series of bad decisions which led to your untimely demise. Now, what do you want to do? Will you accept this fate of yours and rest in peace, or will you try to fight against it? Oh, I get a choice. We get to see more of the art. Alright. Well, in that case. Okay. Pretty sure we can't get out of this. Let's just accept it. Might as well. It is a bit of an anticlimactic answer at this juncture in your life story, but I suppose it would be remiss of me to lecture you too much. I am sure you are well aware of what a terrible series of decisions you have made. There is no need for me to the point. It would be boorish, not to mention tedious. I am rather tired of scolding you, so instead, I think I will content myself with loving you. What? You thought in your death the mermaid was the only one who would be able to cosset you? I know I have said this before. You really are naive. You cannot escape me, even if you are at the bottom of the deepest, darkest ocean. The world might have forsaken you, but I never will. I will never leave you. You will never be lonely again. Alright, so let's try to fight against our fate. Let's see what happens. I like that look on your face. It is a look full of determination. The self-same determination which first prompted me to take an interest in you. I can tell that you are not happy with this ending. You did not come all of this way, after all, to drown. That is quite the indecorous demise, regardless of how many fine stones and shells the mermaid means to twine through your hair after your death. If you wish to carve out a new story for yourself, then I would only be too happy to indulge you. Just try not to get on the bad side. Or, the good side of any homicidal... That word, this time. The drowning of fair maidens is something of a cliché. Your fate is once again in your hands. Now, I wonder, which path will you take? Oh! Huh. Interesting. So what, does the world reset or something?